The question some people might want to ask is, how do you, because the police is, or the security agencies are obligated to maintain peace.
Yeah.
And the Nigerian has a right to his gathering.
Yeah.
He has a right that's enforced by the Constitution as well. But the police also have a right to enforce peace and to ensure that there's peace. So how do you draw that line? Yesterday we were talking to someone who said, is at the discretion of the police to determine which gathering is going to be a security risk. So where do we get, at what point is that line drawn? Or how does the police get to determine which one is the right one that needs to be stopped?
The Court of Appeal said that if, as speculated by law enforcement agents, that breach of peace will occur, our criminal code has made adequate provisions for sanctions against breakdown of law and order, so that the requirement of permits as a conditionality for holding meetings and rallies can no longer be justified in a democratic society. So, police can be there for coverage. I give instances when we had this, and we had good rapport with them. The rally in Ojota, they were out there throughout. We were gisting with the head of the police. So, but it was not disrupted. So, but in this case, as I gave an instance, that if this thing had held, perhaps it would have just been reported in the one somewhere in the newspaper and people have forgotten about it. But because of disruption, it has made the issue, I mean, the main focal point, and people are talking about it. That's why I gave the instance of anti-SAP symposium by identifying me. Because if Babangida had allowed that to happen without arresting Gani, I mean, everybody would have forgotten about the program.
I wanted you to react to what Dr. Bright has written in here. He's talking about politicians trying to attract some form of sympathy. And he's also, I think he's a medical doctor, he's also putting a big blame on the medical doctor in that particular report where we saw Senator Abe. He says, well, you cannot say the senator is bleeding internally and say he's stable. It is a contradiction. And he's also saying, well, the man didn't look like he was bleeding either, so you must need a scan and so many other things. He has a test to be carried out for you to say he's bleeding internally. In all, he's saying, well, politicians explore all avenue to attract public sympathy.
Besides, sure, there's no doubt about that.
So that leaves us, well, where?
No, there's no doubt about that. But in this particular instance, as I said yesterday, that maybe and maybe not. But when it comes to the issue of life, we should give the benefit of doubt to the victim until otherwise proved. Because suppose you say, this guy was just acting, and perhaps he was not acting. Like the instance, 2004 when we went for Gilbert Editors Conference, and we went to go and play ball. The then director of Time Journalism Institute fell down. So we started laughing. He said, now that died so, I'm the joke, now that died so. So we thought it was, so we now ran to him and tried to resuscitate him. So we thought he was just joking. So until somebody is a victim, you don't know whether the person was faking, it was just acting, or it was actually real. But when it comes to the issue of life and death, I believe that the benefit of doubt should be given to the victim until it proves otherwise.
Also comment on this, if you will, because yesterday we had someone writing and saying, look, what are we talking about here? Because in Ekiti State, when Okweme Bamidele was also trying to have his own gathering with his own people, to have that meeting, he duly notified the police, but they came out and they tear gas everybody and it didn't hold.
And we condemned it. I did. That what police did was wrong. What police did was wrong, because I knew that Fayemi had done his own, similar this thing, and was not disrupted. Even though it wasn't a declaration of intention, but it was just still a political rally.
Well, a lawyer and a journalist, good one. You with us here in the studios, you condemned it. Sometimes, how come we see some stories, the condemnation is minimal, as to when it happens in some other quarters. Some actually, well, they make the headlines. When you condemn it, perhaps maybe you are a loner in that regard. That was why a lot of people didn't see such condemnation. That is why this respondent has written to point this out. Is is the media already polarized or enmeshed in all of this politics?
I believe so. I believe so. I think the media needs to be careful, because the media is part of the problem. I think, let's be frank with ourselves, the media is part of the problem. I think there's need for lots of soul searching. Otherwise, the media will have been totally destroyed by 2015. I know what I'm talking about. The media, I mean, it's a different thing where we're under military and you have one enemy just to face the military and get it. But this time around, there are lots of entrenched interests, proprietary interests, pecuniary interests, and other interests.
Do you think
So sometimes when I see some headlines, as a journalist, I knew where this was coming from. But an average person on the street may not know. I knew, I mean, how this thing came out. So an average person, may not know. So there's lots of, there's lots of soul searching in the media.
Because that you said you condemned that development in Ekiti at the time. But if you look at the way it was reported by the press, some are even writing and saying, look, that was suppressed at the time. Not many people who spoke up against it got heard.
Well, maybe because Ekiti is not like Rivers. Because Rivers had been in terms of commercial value of news, Rivers is the main thing. So Ekiti, how many readers are in Ekiti? With due respect to people in Ekiti, in terms of readership. So I mean that it's just one of those things. But in case of Rivers, or you say Nigerian Governors Forum, or any other, because when you look at issue of news and objectivity, although I keep on saying that there's not like objectivity in the research, I believe in subjective objectivity, because in even trying to decide
which headline to take,
you must be subjective one way or the other, but there has to be some level of balance. So, but maybe Ekiti, what happened to Bamidele, to the gatekeepers in the media, perhaps that doesn't make commercial news. They just put it in one place.
Shouldn't be the case.
Which shouldn't be the case. Which shouldn't be the case. So I think the media has a major blame in some of the things that's happening, and we need lots of soul searching. And I discovered with some of the with two editors last week, and I believe it's a major problem that media had to tackle.
I hope we've learned a lesson, because you wrote a book, I remember, The Fellow Countrymen, and captures our history from the first coup to the last one. Does it show that we have learned, so that because the way and manner people report the stories, and the way and manner politicians are going, this is 2014, it seems that a lot of things are deteriorating, coupled with the menace of Boko Haram in the northeast of Nigeria.
We haven't learned our lesson, unfortunately. And that's why I'm very concerned about what's happening in Nigeria. That we should not try to personalize issues. Let's have a bigger picture. Because we can say, it's just Amechi and Jonathan. Before you knew it, it has snowballed to a major conflagration. That's how the Western Union, Western region crisis started. And we felt it's Awo and Akitola. Before you knew it, the military came in. And we say that it must never happen in this country, never. And we've not even tried to, give any reason why there should be anything like military. By tomorrow, it will be 48 years that the military first struck in Nigeria.
Tomorrow,
January 15, that the military first struck. And the damage that the military had done in this country, we should not even give any reason for them to come back. That's why we need to be very careful. Because, we can say, it's politicians, don't mind them, let them kill them. And say, no. We are talking about our future. We know what we suffer under military, and we should never make any mistake by allowing military to come back. That's why we need to be very careful.
This suggests we need to do something about institutions functioning. Yeah. Because there's a comment here coming from Dallas Summit, okay, that's his name. He says, there was an incident that occurred in River State during Governor Rotimi Amaechi's first term in office. A PDP leader, they were having this meeting led by Honorable L.M. Obo in D-Line, Port Harcourt, and they were arrested. And nobody said anything about that. So it looks as though when, just as you suggested, governments in power the security agencies seem to favor them. That is something we need to correct, because different political parties in different states, they all take advantage of this kind of scenario.
Yeah, because, I mean, to me, I don't support, it's not as if I'm supporting Amici as a human being. I'm looking at the principle involved. Because if anybody does anything wrong, I will say it irrespective of wherever you are. So, but to me, I believe that the president, for example, I mean, I like the president as a person. I may not support his policies, but I like him as a person. And I believe that he has to be a statesman. And if I were the president, this issue of election that has overheated the polity, I will just withdraw myself. He has constitutional right to contest. But in view of what has happened, because if from deputy governor to VP to acting president to president, you didn't print a poster, you didn't campaign, there was no tension, you didn't fight nobody. So if God went ahead of you and did all that, then you will now contest on your own. At this stage, I'll just be a statesman. You can even pay somebody from South to go and contest. So that's why.
What if there's still that heated scenario?
It will be difficult for anybody to say, after all, I'm not contesting again. I want to be a statesman. But he can support somebody even from South to become president.
What about this scenario where, just as you highlighted, institutions that need to be corrected? He has consistently said, look, politics don't do anything for me that will shed anybody's blood. How do you match what he's saying against what other people seem to be saying in spite of his position?
If he's saying that one, and one Asari is threatening blood, and I mean, threatening blood will flow if Jonathan doesn't, and you don't call that kind of person to order. I mean, so that's all.
Should it be the president calling such a person? So that there are institutions responsible who are supposed to act. Has the president told them, look, don't act in this case? Or have they acted and he reprimanded them for acting?
No, because if somebody like Asari that people, I mean, write so much about and threatening, okay, why should Junai Mohammed, for example, who who made some irresponsible statement, so why should that person be quizzed by SSS, and that Asari, who had equally made stupid statements, should not be quizzed? So because if you know that this guy is making some reckless statement that I don't approve, it's going to call a security man to place, call this, tell this guy to stop this nonsense. But the guy had consistently been stoking, fire every time, and people latch on to some of those things. When the box stops on your table, so the man has to act and tell the security man, call this man to order, he should stop this nonsense, or make Abati or Gulag or any other people to publicly denounce all kind of nonsense statements. Otherwise, your silence means, acquiescence.
So in this case, now that we're approaching the general elections, security agencies, no matter whose ox is God, anyone who seems to have made any statement, no matter what party it belongs, they should step up. Yeah, and do the same thing across board.
If you are making statements threatening fire and brimstone that will make this country ungovernable, or there will be bloodshed if somebody doesn't, that kind of person need to be interrogated.
And this should be across board, no matter what political party any of them belongs.
Precisely.
Thank you for coming on. Mr. Richard Akinola is a journalist and a legal practitioner.
Thanks so much.
We're back after this break. Please join us again.